Welcome to another episode of Square Compass Podcast. This is Cameron Adamson in Edmonton, Alberta, which is always, this is my second time getting to interview a brother from Alberta. The first one was Brother Daryl Babbitt, but this is Worshipful Brother Chris Fearon, who sits on the Education Committee, past master, and is here to talk about something near and dear to the hearts of many Masons, beer and cheese. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Cam. I appreciate the invitation.
I'll have to talk to you about, I have an interesting cheese story to go into with you from my time as junior warden. But, one thing I like to do with this podcast is bring to other Masonic lodges and people listening, and really any group, communicate to them some exciting initiatives that are kind of going on in the Masonic world that can be applied to other lodges. And so I came across your lodge's beer and cheese night. I got the email, the invitation, which was I was super excited to get it. And I think it's a really great thing for a Masonic lodge to do, both for the lodge itself and for the community, and the businesses in the community. So if you could tell me a bit about kind of that event, what's going on with it, how it came to be, and just how it came to be organized.
Yeah, I sure can, Cam. So how this came to be organized is our junior warden obviously is trying to do his best in interesting times to make sure that the brethren of our lodge and visitors are engaged and find time for some fellowship, albeit virtually, but still a chance to get together and see everybody's faces and share a bit of conversation. And in this case, about beer, cheese, and some meat. So how it kind of came together was, and sorry, I'm fighting with a toddler on my lap here, was there's a gentleman in the Edmonton area who started a brewery in January, and he's doing some contract brewing, but with COVID restrictions and whatnot, wasn't able to actually get any of his own product out onto shelves and has been struggling a little bit. Now, I don't think that this beer and cheese night by any stretch of the imagination is going to save him or pull him through, but it gets him out there, it gets him doing a couple more things, and it puts him in front of a whole bunch of folks. So what we have is Jason is the host's name, and what he's going to be doing is he's going to be hosting this live from virtually, of course, from a brewery in Sherwood Park, which is just east of Edmonton, kind of a bedroom community. And he's going to be walking us through 4 different local beers, and then they're paired with some cheese and some meat. The junior warden has done an outstanding job of getting everybody kind of organized for pickups starting on Sunday the evening. Oh, it's okay. The event is for Tuesday night next week, so it's kind of a bad plug because I think today was also the cutoff for registrations. But just for other brothers and their inquiring minds, we're also opening this up to folks who are outside of Alberta or outside of Edmonton, so Canada-wide. And what we're doing there is, obviously you can't necessarily partake in the same beer and meat and cheeses, but we're making it available so you can come in for a small fee and sit in and listen to the talk that's given and all the rest. And if I think the fee, if anything, is just for an honorarium, essentially for the gentleman who's putting this on. But so I don't foresee it taking too long next Tuesday evening. We're going to start at about 7:30, like we've done with the majority of our Zoom education or get-togethers, supporting some local businesses from a beer perspective and from a meat and cheese perspective.
Yeah, because that's, I think, really what the plug is for this episode, so to speak. It's not so much your particular event, although I'm sure it'll be excellent. It's more plugging the idea of, a local Masonic lodge, doing something different, but also, supporting a local business or businesses that will have been affected by COVID-19 and shutdowns and lockdowns. And finding a way to support them. I always try to emphasize, Freemasons are, as much as we like to consider ourselves an insular kind of group, we really are a part of the community. And anytime we can support the community, not just charitably, so to speak, but by supporting a business, things like that, I think that's always for the better.
Indeed. I think that, what Masonry in general is founded on is hope, faith, and charity. And I think that, you instill hope in local businesses when you put your trust behind them. And, I guess you could look at it from a charitable perspective as well, although, maybe not so much in other years, but especially in this year, because, at the end of the day, right now, seemingly the only thing that any of us can actually do is vote with our dollars.
Yeah. And do you, how much trouble was it? Or, if anybody is, any Masons, any junior wardens watching this are thinking about trying to put one of these things on, was it difficult to organize? How did the organization take place?
The organization, this event was actually supposed to happen in March, but the people who were originally going to host it kind of all came apart on it. So from that perspective, we weren't able to host it originally like we'd wanted to host it, and we had to kind of come up with some alternative plans, and this was it. And this actually turns out, I'm going to say it's probably going to turn out better than they had originally planned it to turn out.
Yeah, well, adapt, improvise, and overcome, as one of the guests said, right?
Yep, indeed.
And you mentioned it was primarily kind of at the impetus of the junior warden who got this started.
Yes.
Yes. So, and because he was friends with the brewery owner, did he just contact the worshipful master? How did it go from there? Was everybody on board right away?
Yeah. So typically, obviously, every lodge is a little bit different, right? How our lodge works is we're like super open. There's a lot of communication between the worshipful master and the two other principal officers on I would almost say like a weekly basis. I can't speak for the current worshipful master. I speak to him weekly about a bunch of issues, but I would assume that the junior and senior wardens both do as well. But there's a lot of latitude given. So our junior warden was able to put this all together, pretty much build up the framework, present it, and say, hey, like, good idea or bad idea. And really, who's going to get like the bad idea stamp on a beer, cheese, and meat night? Like, that's from an event perspective, it's a pretty good event. So it went out, I would say probably towards the end of February is kind of when the initial push internally started to happen. And then with the first hosts falling through, I would say kind of by like late March, we were already chugging on with the second host, and we had a plan. We put the whole our poster together and started to get it out there. In fairness, I wish it would have come out a little bit earlier, but not my event. I'm just helping, right? So forgive me, toddlers. The modern dad life. I think that all the brothers out there who are dads are probably experiencing something like this at some point in time in their day every day.
Oh yeah, they all understand, that's for sure. I also, one thing I really like about this is your position. You are a Masonic education officer, and you're involved in this event. I sometimes worry, and one thing I try to do with Square and Compass is I think we can have Masons, can have sometimes a very narrow view of what Masonic education is and what a Masonic event is. We've been lucky enough here in Windsor, we had a guy come in and his Masonic education talk was making balloon animals. Right? In this case, learning about beer and cheeses and how they pair and all that, that can be a type of Masonic education as well.
Yeah, and we often have conversations very similar to that, like what truly is Masonic education. And while um, it's super enriching, yeah, we just had a piece by one of our members on um, the volume of the sacred law. Now we're York Rite Lodge, so the volume of the sacred law is something that's not often spoken in a York Rite Lodge. So for some of our newer members that have never had an opportunity to get out and visit, and that's I don't think anybody's really physically been visiting in Canada over the last year. I think it's really interesting and enriching that we're getting, like we're getting good quality education pieces to go out to these guys. But that said, yeah, I don't think that it solely has to come down to, uh, talks on Masonic stuff. We've had a lot of other talks through. We have our lodge and our sister lodge have a philanthropic organization where we do a lot of charitable donations. So we've had people come in from some women's shelters, skin cancer foundations, a whole bunch of stuff like that, and give talks in regards to their, I don't want to say plight, but what their organization's aims and goals are. And we've been in a position where we've been able to funnel some money towards them through kind of what we've got back from working casinos and whatnot. So I would pretty much say that anytime two or more Masons get together and talk about something other than like the weather or what happened today, I would almost say that that's Masonic education within itself. But it's sometimes the facilitation of that and getting everybody together and to listen and to learn and contribute creatively is difficult.
Yeah, it can be difficult, which is why I think it's so wonderful that you're having a beer and cheese night, and that you and your junior warden and worshipful master are kind of working together to make it happen. And I certainly, it's inspired me to want to try something similar with my lodges here in Windsor, and hopefully, upon seeing this, it'll inspire some other junior wardens and some other lodges to try the same thing. If any brethren wanted to get in touch with yourself or your lodge to get some ideas or to learn more about your experience with the beer and cheese night, throw a plug in. Who do they contact? How do they find your lodge? All that stuff.
Okay, so currently they can contact myself or our junior warden. Let me get our brother junior warden's email address here so we can kind of cast it out to everybody. Mike Toffin is our current sitting junior warden. If anybody has direct questions for him in regards to this event in particular, ideas on how to put it together, they can get a hold of him at mtoffin@treetime.ca. I'll put that in a chat so everybody can kind of see.
In the description.
Awesome, perfect. So yeah, and then myself, feel free to share my email address. Obviously, you've got that. I sat as junior warden in, oh goodness, 2015, and we had, I think, at least one or two events. That's something that we always try to do is have a couple events a year, and we usually always try to have a woman or like a ladies' night, so the brethren can get their wives out, because so often we as Masons find ourselves to and from our lodge or going to visit other lodges, and our better halves get left at home. So this is usually it's a way to get them out. We've done a couple of dinner theaters. We had a comedy night last year prior to all of this kind of commencing, and it was like I kind of felt bad for the guys because we sprung it on them like a day or two before, like, hey, like, you guys can tell some dirty jokes, but there's going to be a lot of ladies present and some senior ladies, so like we gotta be super respectful. So it was interesting to see what they were able to do with that. And then we've done in the past, we've done some tastings where we've got together with local liquor stores that are set up and able to host tastings in-house. And, you know, like what an awesome way to taste some really, really, really expensive alcohol that missy, that you're probably not ever going to get to buy a bottle of, like $300-400. Wow. $300-400 bottles of rum and whatnot. It's okay, kiddo. That's all right. So, you know, I would implore any junior warden or any officers of the lodge, for that matter, to undertake kind of outside the box thinking for this. And while this isn't like a typical Masonic education night, I think the real drive towards this is fellowship. And in a time like we're in right now, I think that that's something that's very important. While there's probably a lot of senior members in a lot of lodges that haven't had a whole lot of interaction because of health reasons, and that's completely understandable. This is a night where everybody's going to get a chance to, you know, get together virtually, raise a glass together, and hopefully have some laughs.
And we might as well give a quick shout out to, if there's any brethren watching this from Alberta, or maybe they can even deliver outside of province, the brewery that you guys are working with.
That's a good one, because they don't even have a website or anything right now.
In that case, what's your, let's go with this one. What's your favorite local Alberta beer? We'll give that as a plug.
Ooh, okay. So my favorite Alberta beer is from a brewery in Turner Valley, Alberta. So it's south of Calgary, in like the most picturesque, like rolling hills, looking into the mountains. It's a German brewmaster from Germany who's got like a PhD in, I don't know, some bioscience, who just decided that he was going to make beer. And the brewery is called Fahr. It's Fahr. And they make, I don't know, like a handful of brews. They've got a Pilsner, a Heffy, a hoppy Heffy. They usually come out with like a really good Oktoberfest brew. And then they've got like a Radler for summer and whatnot. But yeah, the craft beer scene here is, it's getting kind of crazy. And there's a lot of different breweries fighting for your beer dollars every time you walk in the liquor store. But the really nice thing is the local liquor stores are all supporting these guys as well and carrying their product. So it's not hard to like really search a lot of this stuff out.
Awesome. One more time, I'll just recommend everybody watch this, whether you're a Mason or any organization you're involved with, having to meet virtually. Take a page, take advice from our worshipful brother Chris Fearon, and try this out in your own life or with your own organization, because everybody, in Canada and Ontario right now certainly is meeting virtually. It can get pretty monotonous. So having the chance to try something new and different, such as this, I think is great. And thank you for taking the time. I know you guys are swamped over there, for talking about this, because I definitely think it's something worthwhile. That's something we should be as a crowd. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Cameron. I really appreciate it.